Guys, I think I worked it out. I've been running my ad creative agency for 2 years, and I think I just found out how to actually scale ad creative production. Obviously, not right now because now I'm filming this video, but like throughout the last, I'd say 6 months or so, I think we really cracked the code as to what's the actual most optimal way to produce ad creatives at scale. And I wanted to show you that in this video. I think it's just honestly, I think it's too valuable not to share to others. So like whether you're running a brand, whether you're running an agency, to me it really doesn't matter. I just wanted to share this because this has helped our ad creative production scale so much without burning money on UGC creators, without having these 6 to 8 week production cycles and so on. I just think there's like something fundamentally flawed in the way people produce ads, and I wanted to show you an alternative. This is just some of our clients' accounts. Obviously, not all accumulated to the ad creatives that we produce. Some of these ads we've also created on our old model as well, but we work with some pretty sick brands in general. And I think like after seeing all of these different accounts and also just seeing what's going on in the market, I think that there's a more optimal way to do stuff. And I think the first thing that I'd want to do or just like throw out to you is to kind of go over the constraints that I personally see, just agency side, that most brands or people trying to scale ad creative production has, which is first and foremost like not knowing what to test. So people will say, "Oh, I don't know what angle to test," or like, "I just need to find a new angle," or yada yada yada. The other thing is not having enough bandwidth. So they're like, "I just need to hire another editor. I just need to hire a strategist. My strategist is not working." Um, like it could be anything. And then the last one is the actual cost of testing. So I can't afford to hire a new editor. I can't afford to hire a new strategist, or we simply can't produce enough winning ads fast enough. And these kind of things are like in a all like in a doom loop, in a downward spiral, because if you don't know, like if you're not able to afford testing, well then you wouldn't find out like what's working, what's not working, and then you wouldn't know kind of what to test. And I wouldn't say that this is like a cycle almost, but that also leads to you like you wouldn't have bandwidth to test either. These are just all problems that happens that just feed you down into a downward spiral. And just to kind of show what most people do to kind of solve this, because it's like most people don't think about this and they just almost seems like they want to go downward in this spiral and haven't thought of like surely there's another way where we don't have to, like where we actually know what to test, where we have the bandwidth to test it, and where we're able to afford testing. That's what we did with our agency, where we just transformed the delivery completely. The way most brands operate, it's kind of like this. So they have an idea, they go scripted, they go find a creator, then the creator films the concept, and they QA the content, hand over to editing, edit content, QA content again, upload ads, launch and test. From the surface, this looks fine. This looks fine. It looks like there's no problem. Cool. This is a smooth process. We just do this, yada yada yada, boom boom boom, back and forth, no problem. But there is problems. There is problems because I ran this operation for like, I guess so 1.5 years, 2 years almost. And I can tell you the problems. It takes 4 to 8 weeks to go from like the idea to launch to test. If you want it consistently, now you can have shorter cycles, but it's not predictable. And I think another thing that brands lack, and ad creative production in general lack, is just the predictability of know when you get an input in, you get an input out, because you work with these types of like creators and whatnot, and you're like they're not on your schedule, you're on their schedule because they're freelancers, and if you don't have anyone in the house, well then you'd be confined to like having these creators. The cost per concept is $500 to $1,000 to produce, whether that being you're working with an agency, those are obviously on the more expensive side, but also if you have to go ask a creator for footage to create footage for your brand, they charge ridiculous prices, especially in the UK, especially in the US, and this whole like mainstream narrative of like becoming a GGC creator, and that has now become like a business opportunity, a biz up for that's like posting paid ads and whatnot. So like they charge their prices as well because they want to build a business and whatnot, and like their mentors want them to have good results, so they tell them like, hey, raise your prices and whatnot. And then also you need a team of like 3 to 4 people to manage this operation, because you need like a lead strategist or a marketer. That might also be you. You need a strategist, and you need a coordinator, and then you need an editor. So it's like you're spending just to test like 6 concepts. You're spending 6 weeks, 5 grand, and like 20 hours of your time. It might not be 5K. That might be if you're working with an agency, but it's expensive. It's just super expensive. And this really ticked for me when I heard this podcast by Leila Hermosi, when she talked about like Elon Musk and how he like 6 rules to get ahead sounds a bit like, I don't know. It sounds funny, but one of the things we're just like looking at things from first principles, and I guess this is sort of first principles, but I just ask myself what would need to be true for us to deliver ad creatives faster, more profitably, without team complexity. Because I don't know about you, but I don't like managing a billion different people just to seem to do the most simple thing in the world. And I was like, surely there's an easier way to do this, and there is. So I'll go into that now. I've kept you for long enough, just teasing you. So in terms of solving these constraints, knowing what to test, and then there's another bucket, not having the bandwidth to test and not being able to afford testing. There's kind of like two different solutions. So bucket one is the first solution to the first problem and the first constraint, and bucket two is the solution to the two other constraints. And if we just go over the constraint one, not knowing what to test, well, we've kind of coined this term of creative market fit, which is just something I came up with after going over like, hey, what needs to be true for an ad creative to convert? Again, going back to like first principles. And in my head, at least, after looking just at the ads that we produce and also just the market, like, okay, we need to do a format, we need to have the messaging correct, and we need to have the market correct. If these three things are in order or like aligned, then we find the creative market fit. So it basically means the market that you choose to target, like the intent, sophistication, awareness, did you pair an angle that matches with that? And did you have a format that they like consuming content in? Because you can do a super aesthetic, like aesthetic ad and whatnot, but if you're targeting somebody who's trying to like get off drugs and whatnot, like it doesn't make sense. The same way if you're selling a weight loss supplement or if you're selling like high fashion and then you do a 5 minute in feed VSL, like it just doesn't make sense. So you need to think of the market that you're targeting, the messaging that you're showing to that market, and the format that you package messaging in for that market. That's in terms of knowing what to test. My feedback and my encouragement to you is that like a simple way, like the TLDR of finding winning ads, so to speak, is go see what messaging is already working in your ad account in your market and try to just play with one of these variables. So I'd play with the format variable. That's like the best thing to do in my opinion, and just double down on like how can we take what's working and just produce it in other formats. It could look like something like this. So you have the avatar and the angle, so the market and the message, and then the formats. So you can do like a testimonial mashup. You can do long form AI. You could do a founder ad. You could do a TikTok comment reaction. You can do street interview, and you can do a fake podcast ad, and then do variations of those. Those could obviously be like the basically just different entry points. We like to do them on the hooks, just like what if you can just catch that intent in the hook and just have something slightly different. I know there's been a recent meta update as well, so they're really good at doing pocket audiences with the hooks. I can't remember what the update is called. I'm not going to pause the video to find out. But that said, that's how we think about the creative market fit. So like, hey, what avatar do we probably already have? You can also pull reports from Shopify and whatnot. Do we have that's working? What angle do we already have that's working with that? And how can we just do as many formats of that? On the other hand, if you have a format that's working and you know we absolutely crush with fake podcast ads or we absolutely crush with street interviews, well, then another variable might be the angles. So how can we do 30 different angles for the street interviews? So for weight loss, it could be, Jesus, so bad on creative strategy on the spot. But like for weight loss, it could be either like going up to an event, specific event that they might be going to. It could be like self-confidence issues. It could be tied to really anything. Just think of like angles in general. And then avatar is like the actual person we're going after. So like male, female, income level, sophistication, awareness, intent, all these different things. But if you nail this, this is like knowing what to test. And I think having the simplified view of like, we need an avatar, cool. We need an angle, cool. We need a format, cool. If you have all those different things and it works, then you're cranking. So just think of like variables on those different levels, and you can do a lot of good stuff with just like looking at competitors as and then using AI. To be transparent, that's a lot of what we do as an agency as well. Look at what we have working for that client specifically, but also just all of our other accounts, the market, and then just iterating on that, iterating on what's working. Now that's to solve for constraint of one not knowing what to test, but I actually think that most brands are in like they're severely handicapped by bucket two, which is the constraint of not having bandwidth to test and not being able to afford testing. This was the biggest unlock for us, absolute biggest unlock. Like I encourage you, if you're watching this video, pay close attention. Almost sad that it's come like 11 minutes into this video, but it's like the solution to this is to have what we call a decentralized content production system. Boom. Like what this means is that you have different buckets of content that you can pull from. It means that you have your agency is called Organic Rocket, so you have the footage here. You have founder content, you have influencer content, customer content, customer UGC, sorry, customer results, customer testimonials, memes and press, organic content, AI footage, B-roll footage, and shared content libraries that you can all access to create your ads. This means that you like instead of going through this process of finding creators, giving them a single concept or even multiple concepts, and then filming it, QCing it, like you need to think of this entity right here as just a complete separate step. I know a lot of all of the biggest brands that you probably see as well, they already use this method. If you look at like, and I can say they only use this method obviously, but they have parts of this. If you look at brands such as Rise and whatnot, I know they also work with agency, but they have like I can pull it up right now. They have billion different ads. Swear they might have. Let's see what it actually says. But if I pull Rise right here, they have how many ads is it? Active ads 6,800. Obviously not all of them are a video, but like they have so many ads, and if you can think you can go and create that many concepts or that many ads with like doing single creator concept where you need to find creators and pay them money every time, film it and QC it, like it's just not going to happen. And even if it is going to happen, it's just not a problem worth solving. I think that's the biggest takeaway I had from this podcast I heard here was like what problems are actually worth solving, because you just need to solve for the constraint, not the constraint, but like the first principles of how can we do this more profitably, how can we scale it, which was kind of like my two things, like faster and more profitably. So basically just cut this step out. Like cut this out. It doesn't matter. Like again, depending on what kind of brand you are, like it might make sense specifically, let's say that you're high fashion and whatnot, or you're doing like super aesthetic brand film and whatnot, you'd need content creators or you'd need a production team. But there's so many other things and ways for you to source content, platforms, internal storage, like user content, AI stuff. Like we make some of our best content, just like mashups, AI content, and then just UGC. Now your production cycle will just, besides you just making so much more profit per ad, because it's cheaper to produce, you have the price per ad just doing this, or at least like lower it by 30%. But it also, you cut out these 2 to 3 weeks because you only have to go from research to script them, then edit, QC, and then you have the final product. It's so much simpler. And this is what really transformed our ad creative production, because now we know what to test. We know that when we onboard a brand, we can quickly identify the avatar that we need to go to market with, their sophistication stage, their awareness stage, the intent. Then we can identify what angles are working for that client specifically and what formats are working. And if they don't have anything that's really cranking, we can go look at all the other accounts that we oversee, all the market, what's popping in the market, so to speak. And then we can use this decentralized content production system where we have our own footage, where we can pull from their footage, where we can pull from everywhere really, to just get to the outcome of making ad creatives ROI positive, just making more winning ads sooner, faster, more profitably. If you're building content in-house and you have like an in-house team, I think this is so huge, building your decentralized content production system. in conjunction with the creative market fit that you'd be iterating on. If you're really sharp, you can actually connect these two different things where your creative market fits and your best concepts pull into your data storage, so you can just like pull that and have that as aggregate for the team. But yeah, that's how to quote actually scale ad creative production. There's so many ways to do it, but we've just found, and I've personally just found, this is how I'd want to build it because it's cheaper, meaning it's more profitably to run like the operations. It's like you can produce the ads faster, which means you have faster feedback cycles, and you can actually just start finding winning ads more sooner, and then you can just go deploy more, and they work even better. Like I want to say even better because there's like we haven't seen any what's it called, like there's not been any like deviance where it's just performed 10 times worse, or even like 5-10. Haven't measured this that accurately, but so far it's so good, and we're producing absolute bangers with this new model. So I encourage you to try it out at least, and I think this would be a huge unlock if you're either a brand or an agency just making ad creatives. So hopefully it helps, and see you soon.